Warning: the following podcast contains adult language and childish comedy. Listener discretion is advised. And now, please adjust your headphone volume to an unreasonable level and enjoy the most dynamic and electrifyingly entertaining podcast ever to conquer cyberspace. This is
Amish Baby Machine.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the most powerful podcast ever created, the Amish Baby Machine Pop Culture Podcast, starring me, Dags. The Amish Baby Machine Podcast is a powerful American pop culture podcast. And now, somewhere east of the Mississippi, powerful hosts of the Pittsburg Nerd Podcast, we're happy to welcome to the barn, Shawn. Or is it pronounced Scene? I don't speak Gaelic.
It is Shawn.
Okay, it's not Scene.
No, it is not Scene, no, sir. It is Shawn, and it's a pleasure to be here with you guys today.
Powerful. So I wanted to talk to you. You are a powerful podcaster from Pittsburgh, and all I know about Pittsburgh is it's overrun with penguins. Tell the fans of Flock of Amish what's up with Pittsburgh.
Well, Pittsburgh, I mean, I don't want to be the tourism board here, but it is an up and coming city once again. We've become a very hipstery place compared to what we used to be. Google has moved in. A number of tech companies have put down roots here in Pittsburgh, and we've gone from being a very steel, smoky city from when I was a kid to now it's a very eco-friendly, that lets turn these old buildings into something beautiful type of city, which has been a very unique transformation, to say the least.
Now, where does penguins come from? Why are they named after the Penguins?
Well, the Penguin hockey franchise, the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think it was just like, let's do something that sounds kind of wintry, and plus at the time they were playing in the Civic Arena, the Pittsburgh Civic Arena, which looked like an igloo. It was nicknamed the Igloo. So they, I think that was part and parcel of why they chose something of an Arctic variety as far as the waterfowl go.
You know, Mike Ditka named our powerful Metrodome the Roller Dome because it looked like a roller skating rink.
I always thought the Metrodome was an interesting place because it looked like it was inflated.
It literally was inflated, and it collapsed once in a powerful snowstorm.
I seem to recall that. Yeah, it always looked like it was like any time could actually like lift off because the dome itself was actually inflated up. Did you ever see a game there?
Oh, yes. And when you went in the doors, the wind would just blow you because it was literally inflated.
Oh, wow. Because, being here in Pittsburgh, we don't have domes. Hockey's played indoors, so you have like an arena type situation. But, for years it was Three River Stadium, which looked like a giant ashtray. And now we have Heinz Field and PNC Park. But we've never had a dome, even the Steelers practiced outdoors for years upon years upon years before they built an indoor facility. So it's kind of a weird thing. Like I can't imagine watching football in a dome or baseball in a dome because I've never done it in my life.
Yeah, it's a lot of times the dudes that lose the baseball up in the lights. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So I want to know about your powerful podcast. Tell the fans of Flock of Amish about the Pittsburg Nerd Podcast.
It would be my pleasure. We are the Pittsburg Nerd Podcast. We are a pop culture geek / nerd culture / weird news / sports / really anything we really want to talk about.
/ Guns N' Roses.
/ Guns N' Roses / whatever his solo band was. We do it all. / Cordell Stewart. There you go. But we talk about pretty much. Hey, we talk about our day. We'll talk about chili cheese dogs. We talk about whatever just kind of springs to our mind or what's going on out there in the world.
Now, how did you get into podcasting? I'm curious. I want to know about day one. Did you think about it for a while? Did you all of a sudden jump in? I want to know the origin of the Pittsburg Nerd Podcast.
I think the origin goes back to when I was a kid and I wanted to be a DJ. My mom would drive me to school, we'd listen to the morning DJ, and I thought, I can be as funny as these guys. And then, along comes Howard Stern later in my life. I find out about him, and I'm like, he gets paid to do what I would love to do. So I thought to myself, this is clearly my career choice. And then I delved deeper into it and realized, you have to go to Sheboygan and do country music or whatever. They're not going to let you just go on the air and be funny and tell jokes and talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. Most places you have to follow a program, and that kind of killed that dream until years later when Kevin Smith started doing his podcast. And Kevin Smith has always been that guy who's like, just follow your dream, do it. What's stopping you? And I thought to myself, well, podcasting seems to be the perfect thing. And I took my time and did my research and tried to figure out how I want to do this. And, I wanted to do something similar to Smodcast, where it was like a conversation between me and somebody close to me. And my cousin, Ian, who's my co-host, seemed like the perfect choice. And I brought it to his, talked to him about it. And, we kind of fiddled around with it for a little bit. We did a few test runs, and finally we were just like, we just need to do it. We just need to hit record and put it out there in the world. And we finally did it, and we've been doing it for just over 6 years now, and we don't regret a minute of it.
You probably started right around the same time as the most powerful podcast ever created, the Amish Baby Machine podcast started in 2013.
Yeah, I think we started. I do believe we started around the same time, and we've been you and I have been in the same orbit around each other for quite some time. So this flirtation has finally come to this point where we're now finally coming together in a Greek-like orgy, if you will, of pop culture madness.
I would. You got to admit, we have powerful gravity.
We do, yes. Yeah, it's black hole-ish, if you will.
It is. Now, what is your go-to subject? I know your pop culture from A to Z, but week after week, what is your go-to subject? What do you guys usually fall back on or fall into?
At this point, it always seems like when worse comes to worse, I can bitch about how bad DC Comics movies are compared to Marvel Comics movies, and that seems to always get some traction. We can go off on a tangent conversation about that.
Oh, I want to actually, let's get into that.
Okay.
How do the kids hear you? Do some shameful plugs.
Oh, I'm horrible at shamefully plugging me, but you can find us. We're pretty easy to find. We're on most podcatchers. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker. Like you said, most places where you can find podcasts, you can find us. Just search Pittsburg Nerd. We're very easy to find, and we're like the only ones. Even if you Google us, we own that Google search. There's nothing else you're going to get but us. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. Just search Pittsburg Nerd. Again, very easy to find.
Powerful. Now let's get into, you wanted to talk about DC movies, comics versus Marvel. Now, I always wanted to talk about why are the animated movies so good, and then the movies suck. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the reason the animated movies have been so good for so long is because they've had the same team working on them for quite some time, going all the way back to Batman the Animated Series. Not Paul Dini, the other guy. I can't think of his name, and it's a shame because it should be right at the tip of my tongue. but they've always had like the same kind of crew working on those behind the scenes as far as the producers and stuff like that. And even like the voice casting and everything else has all kind of been the same for 30 years almost, and or 25 years. And it's I think that's part of what keeps like the animated stuff that they do looking good and done well, because they have that same group. Bruce Timm, that's the guy who I was trying to think of. Bruce Timm has been like the guiding force behind DC animation for years.
Now, do you remember the voice actor for Batman? His name? Now, is he, what I'm asking is he the same dude from the movie Thinner? Because if I have to remember, I never remember names, but the dude's voice, the actor in Thinner, did you see that?
No, Kevin Conroy was the guy who did Batman's voice.
Yeah, and he was in Thinner, right?
I'm going to check that right now because
you go ahead.
Don't know.
It's powerful. I just got a vision. I ate a bunch of macaroni and cheese, and I started getting sleepy, and I had visions, and one of them was the dude from Batman, was the guy from Thinner. You know, that's a cool movie. What's that? Are you looking it up?
I'm looking it up right now, yeah.
Powerful. We need look up music. I'll do some music. How does it feel to podcast from Pittsburg? Powerful New Order. Did you find it?
New Order there. No, I'm not finding it.
I need a new Google boy.
In that movie.
You're useless.
I don't. No, I'm saying I'm not seeing it because I don't think he was in that movie. Like I've gone all the way back to like the early '90s here, and I'm not finding Center. So I do not believe he was in that film.
What ifs? What is your favorite animated DC film?
Oh wow. I've got to say probably The Dark Knight Returns parts 1 and 2. I view that as one full movie, so to speak. And it was, it did such a good job of taking that source material and really running with it. I thought they did such a fantastic job, even going so far as to like make a lot of the artwork look like what Frank Miller did in that comic book. I thought that was just really well done.
Now, did I say animated film or regular?
You did say animated film, yes.
Okay.
If we're gonna go regular, I'm going to be the odd guy, and I'm actually going to say Man of Steel.
Powerful.
Like if we're talking about like the DC cinematic universe.
Now, my problem is with movies, the animated films, they just take the comic book characters, their costumes, and just animate them. And it's pretty much as close as you can get to the book as you can. But I talked about this last week, and I always talk about it. They have to change everything for the movie to make it more believable. They'll change their costume. Instead of primary colors, they'll make it some leather thing. And I can't stand that. Just make it exactly like the comic book and see what happens.
I agree. Like I think the hardest job is to take a lot of times the costumes that you see on the printed page and turn that into something in reality. I think like if you look at like the X-Men in the early 2000s there with the black leather and everything that they did, it would have been hard to like see those guys all running around in blue and gold spandex. And it's the same thing like with Batman. Like I was never a fan of the 90s suits because you could tell it was just like one giant piece and the guy couldn't move properly in it. I always liked how Nolan kind of addressed that, especially in the Dark Knight, with even though it looked a little bit goofy, going with more of the helmet for the cowl so he could move his head around and everything. Like I think a lot of times those suits just, as much as I love the design on the page, it's so hard to take that design from the page and put it to the screen and make it look right. So sometimes they do a good job with it. I mean, I never think they should mess with Superman's suit. that just works. I think Spider-Man suit is the same thing. Why are you messing with that?
I'm a powerful traditionalist, and I like Superman, primary colors, flying through the blue sky, truth, justice, and the American way. When they have to go dark and that's make a new character. I don't also like, I hate when they make a character and they change them, the gender, the hair, this and that. Just make a new character. And then someone will say, "Oh, but it's in the comics." Yeah, but I want make a new character. I'm done. That's my 3 cents.
No, I agree with you. Like I especially in the comic books, like, we hear so much about, like, them tweaking a character or making a change to a character. Especially amongst the big two, Marvel and DC. But I think the problem becomes with those two companies. If I as a writer create a new character, I don't own that character. Marvel or DC does, and they don't pay me residuals like they should, which becomes half the problem. Why you don't see that many new characters being created, or the company's making a decision to take an existing character and change them that way. So I think, with the rise of indie comics, I think that's where you see some of those guys going and creating new characters and stuff like that. But amongst the big two, it's hard to do, just because as a writer, I'm not going to get what I'm due for creating that character.
Are you still reading comic books?
I am not. No. Like,
okay.
I went through a phase where I was for a while there. I had like a $50 a week habit that I had to go to meetings for.
What kind of meeting?
But CA, Comic Books Anonymous.
What were you dressed as?
I was dressed as the comic book guy from The Simpsons.
Powerful.
Thank you. I do still read some stuff occasionally, just because I enjoy the medium, or like a specific writer. Like right now, I'm in the middle of reading a series called Saga. It's written by Brian K. Vaughan, who also wrote Why the Last Man Standing, and it's a very different series. I've really enjoyed it. It's a science fiction series with a very interesting twist to it, and I like Brian K. Vaughan as a writer, so I kind of picked up on that, and I'll pick them up as the trade paperbacks. But like my days of going to the comic book store like every Wednesday on New Comic Book Day to pick up a pull list or something is long dead, unfortunately.
Do you still have all your comics?
No, I don't.
Wow, most people hold on to them.
Like I never, like when I was a kid, I wasn't a huge comic book collector. Like I'd have some here or there, but it wasn't like a huge collection. And unfortunately, those got destroyed just by dogs and cats and floods and everything else.
And actually reading them.
And actually reading them, yes, not buying it and immediately putting into a sleeve. So like I never. Unfortunately, those books like from the 80s that I had, I never kept. And like later on when I started buying them again, other than a select few, like just to make room, it was like one of those things where I just kind of gave them all to my cousin and his kids and let them read them. And when they were done, I told them to just give them to Goodwill.
Powerful. Now, as far as comic books, who's your go-to character or group?
I have always been a Hal Jordan Green Lantern fan.
Wow.
Going all the way back to my younger days. Yeah, the man without fear. Hal Jordan was always kind of a go-to guy for me. And I was so happy when they kind of brought him back from the dead a few years ago. And that was kind of what got me back into buying comic books. It was like, Hal Jordan's back. Well, let me check this out, and that kind of got me into my habit that I had to go to the CA for.
What's the best comic book adaptation, do you feel? Dark Knight?
Yeah, I know that's the cliched answer. I also feel Superman 2, despite its age, I know it doesn't hold up as well as I'd like it to. I still think, like, Christopher Reeve's Superman, and especially in that movie, it's very underrated.
I wonder, it kind of looks hokey with the special effects they had back then. I wonder if you could redo that and still capture.
Yeah. I would love to see them done. I know a few years ago they released the Richard Donner cut of that movie because he was fired and they had to redo a lot of the stuff. And it was kind of interesting to see because it still had Brando in it. And when they fired Richard Donner, Brando wouldn't let them use his likeness. That's why they used his mother in the second movie. But when they redid the Donner cut, the Brando's foundation allowed them to use his likeness for that, which was interesting to see. And there were little tweaks here and there, but like they even tried to update the special effects a little bit. But there's only so much you can do with updating that without making it look like the special editions of Star Wars.
Oh my God. It's amazing how the dude that made all that ruined it all.
George Lucas is a very interesting person to me in the fact that he himself has stated he never feels the movies will ever be complete. Like it's his right as an artist to go back and make changes to him as he sees fit. And I when I heard him say that, I was like, wow, that's a bold statement, my friend. Because you created these classic movies, and I don't see you going back to do anything to THX 1138.
So what did you think about when they redid the Star Wars, when George Lucas wasn't involved?
Well, I mean, so when they said they were going to make more Star Wars movies, that was a surprise to me. Like it was a pleasant surprise. Like I'm happy that they've done that. I liked The Force Awakens a lot. I thought J.J. Abrams did a really good job of bringing that franchise kind of back and making it feel like Star Wars again. And the Last Jedi, I think, is an amazing movie. I absolutely loved it. I know there's a lot of people out there who are going to spew hate at me for saying that, but I think it's an amazing movie. I really liked what Rian Johnson did with that. And when you look at like the standalone movies, Rogue One is a fantastic film. It's a great spy/war movie. It's the movie you didn't think you wanted to see that you really needed to see. They did a fantastic job with that. And Solo's good too. Like it wasn't that bad. I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I've watched it, repeated on repeat viewings and still enjoyed the heck out of it. And I really like the direction that they've gone, and it kind of bums me out that the internet has kind of forced Lucasfilm to rethink what they're doing, because I thought they were going in the right direction myself. Of the 4 movies they released, I enjoyed all 4 of them.
Now, what do you think is a sci-fi movie that someone might not have seen that you enjoy? Maybe one that didn't do so well, or maybe something from back in the day.
There are 2 movies I'll bring to people's attention that if you have not seen them, I would absolutely, positively, highly recommend them. And the first one is Dark City. The big star in it is Kiefer Sutherland, but he's not the main character. And it's directed by Alex Prius, who's the same guy who directed The Crow. And it is a movie that it's one of those movies that you have to absolutely pay attention to. You just put down your phone for 2 hours and give this movie your full attention, because it is well worth the attention. It's a very interesting sci-fi film that, I absolutely enjoyed and would highly recommend to anybody who's looking for a different feel of a sci-fi movie.
I have to agree. I have to agree on that. I'm going to chime in. That was a really, I didn't hear much about it. I saw it in the movie theater and I loved it. Yeah. I liked it. It wasn't, it was, what would you say? It was kind of an urban noir, kind of a There's a cool vibe to it. Now I wanted to.
It had a bit. It had a bit of a Blade Runner vibe to it. I thought at first.
Yeah.
But that kind of goes away quickly.
Yes.
And it's a very interesting film, and everything that it brings to the table, and like you just don't see the ending coming, or even anything about that movie coming. It was like so well done. It's one of those movies that like you wish did better, so more movies like that would be made.
I do want to get into when you said Blade Runner, and then I'm getting Dune vibes too. So let's hear about. You said you had one more film you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, the other film, kind of real quick, is a film called The 13th Floor, and this is a movie. I couldn't tell you who's in the cast off the top of my head. It's been a few years since I've watched it, but it's one of those movies, if you can find it, that it's a virtual reality movie, and it deals with virtual reality and artificial intelligence, and it does it in a really smart and intelligent way that I really, really liked. And it was like one of those movies that kind of like it hit theaters and it disappeared. And I just happened to catch it while I was in theaters and was so glad I did, because it was like really, really well done. And I was like really surprised by how good it was.
So in a nutshell, what was that movie about? If you don't want to be a spoiler alert, just tell the fans of Flock of Amish in a nutshell what it's about.
In general, it's about the scientist and his assistant, and they're developing a virtual reality with an artificial intelligence. And when they go into it, it's like being in like like Phoenix in the 1940s or something. And of course, things go awry because of the artificial intelligence, and all sorts of chaos ensues. So I don't want to delve into it too much, but it's like very interesting take on artificial intelligence in a virtual reality type of simulation.
Now the fandom just recently lost Rutger Hauer. Now, what are your thoughts on his films? Because we alluded to Blade Runner. Yeah,
well, I mean, Blade Runner is, for me, and I mean, this is my opinion, it's the greatest movie ever made. It's my all-time favorite film. So, like, right off the bat, like, that was, his portrayal of Roy Batty, the replicant, and everything he did in that movie. Like, it was the first time I saw Rutger Hauer was in that movie, and I was, like, captivated by his performance. And my dad, who got me to watch Blade Runner because Harrison Ford was in it, he's like, it's got Han Solo in it, watch it. And at the end of it, I was like, who's the other guy? And that's when he showed me Nighthawks, which is a Sylvester Stallone movie, but Rutger Hauer plays the villain in that. And, so like right off the bat, there's two movies. I'm like, this guy is amazing. And then I see Lady Hawk, and Lady Hawk is an amazing movie. And then I see The Hitcher, and The Hitcher is an amazing movie, and Flesh and Blood. And I was like this guy does amazing stuff. And then he kind of disappeared in the 90s into direct-to-video land. But like, if it was something that had Rutger Hauer in it, I would watch it because I thought he was that good of an actor.
Yeah, he's the ultimate villain. Ultimate. Because he had so much dimension to him.
Right. But he could play a great hero, too. Like, in Lady Hawk, well, like, technically he's not the main character. He's the most interesting character. Because you're right, of how much dimension he brings to a character when he's acting. He's a guy that, like, any little thing he did, I would watch just because, I mean, hobo with a shotgun. I mean, that sounds like an insane premise, and it is, but he makes it work.
Did you see the Osterman Weekend?
I did, yes. And I mean, again, like you're talking about, like, I mean, he's just so good. It's like damn near anything.
It's awesome. Like I said, there's so much depth to him too. He's not cartoonish, like you said. He can pull off the hero. He can do the. Sometimes he's not even a villain. It's just like he's almost misunderstood.
Like the anti-hero. Like
yes, exactly. Even
before it was cool.
Yeah, even like in The Hitcher, Yeah. It's just, yeah, he brings that quality. It's powerful. Now, as far as Dune, what are your thoughts on Dune?
About the remake by Denis Villeneuve?
Negative, Ghost Rider. It's all about the 80s. We're trapped in the 80s here.
Okay. So we're going the original version of Dune.
There is only one.
Okay. Well, I'll put it to you this way. Dune is a very important book in my family's circle. So when that movie came out in '84, my dad took me to go see it with my uncle, my aunt, my grandfather. It was a family affair. We all went to go see Dune together. And when I walked out of that movie, having never read the book yet, I was like, what in the hell did I just watch? It blew my mind because I had no idea what I was seeing, and I didn't understand it at the time. Later on, I went and I read the book, and I gained a better appreciation for it. And upon repeat viewings, I've enjoyed it. And even like the extended version, the 3.5-hour version that's out there, which I have a copy of, it's an underappreciated masterpiece because of what they did as far as like making, with the special effects and the worms and everything else. I'm hoping. I know, they're doing the remake, and I know you're saying there's only one, but I'm hoping that this brings a really great version of that book and that story to the screen that we can all appreciate. Because I think that's a franchise that can be done very well.
I just love the campiness of it. I like, the over the top. I love Sting. Sting was awesome in it, wasn't he?
Oh, Sting was. I mean, that was like one of those moments where you're like, okay, who is this guy? Like, that's Sting? That's the guy from the Police? Oh, okay.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many cool characters, the costume. It might have been campy for the purist. I didn't read the book because it involved reading. But I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was cool. I liked, like you said, it was it was Art Deco, but it was steampunk before. I don't even know if there was steampunk back then.
Right.
It was cool. I like I said, usually you see like Star Wars and it's good guys and bad guys, but this was, all the different families, the houses, everyone loves Game of Thrones. It had so much going on in it. I loved it. And like I said, all the over the top characters and the acting and epic.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, the whole thing, like with, and the thing is like, it does get like so in depth with the book. And you get the better understanding of like the Bene Gesserit and everything that goes into that. And like, what Paul's teaching the freedom fighters to do and everything. It's so well done. It's such a rich, like Game of Thrones-ish type of book that it's hard to do in a 2-hour movie. Like
yeah.
That's the problem with it. Like from a story standpoint, you're right. Like visually, that movie is amazing. That they did back in the 80s, and it's like you can't believe like when you look at it. Like you're right. Like the steampunk aspects of it and the Art Deco look of the palaces and everything that goes into that. But like from a story standpoint, it's hard to do in 2 hours. And, that's why there's like the 3.5-hour version that kind of has to explain everything that's going on, all the multi-layers that are taking place that are setting in motion the fall of House Atreides. And it's a great story, and I'm hoping to see it done well at some point.
Yeah, I hope they don't. I hope they can. I don't know how you do it, but capture that. I liked the campiness of it. I liked the colors, everything about it. Like sometimes when they try to make it too. I didn't read the book, but when they, I don't know. It's one of those things that I saw it not knowing the original source material, and I just loved it. Who's your favorite character from it?
I always liked the Baron, like the floating fat man kind of. Like that was like such an oddball character, and he was kind of gross looking a little bit. And you were like, what is
he was gross.
Yeah, what is this dude's deal? And then
those weird plugs, and he's rubbing the guy against him, and ugh.
Yeah, and and you had Sting, like this shirtless, like just cod piece wearing Sting, like right next to him, like all buff and sweaty. And you're just like, what a juxtaposition.
You know who I loved was the Beast Raban.
Oh my. Okay.
Wasn't he powerful?
He was.
You know who that dude was? Did you ever see Midnight Express?
Once a very long time ago, and that was enough.
Yeah, he's the Turkish prison guard.
Okay. I can see that.
Yeah, so you should go back and look just to see. Maybe I'll put it on the powerful Twitters.
Okay.
You guys are following us, right? At Amish B Machine. Powerful flock of Amish fans.
I am right there.
Yes.
I have an alert come up anytime you do tweet, and
yes.
I try to retweet you right away.
Yes. This is a shameful plug. This is a shameful plug right now I'm doing. So make sure you guys follow us at Amish B Machine on Twitter. Make sure you like our Facebook page. All our powerful podcasts get uploaded to YouTube automatically. Like us on Facebook. Also, we do have a Patreon page. Great way to help support this show. Also, powerful merch. I got great merch. I got t-shirts, mugs, tank tops, all inspired by the power of the most powerful podcast ever created. All right, my plug is over. Back to you, Shawn.
Well, I just wanted to say, I try to retweet you just so I can glom on to your power.
It is powerful, isn't it? It's intoxicating.
It's the Amish B Machine bump.
Anything else you want to plug?
I would, other than my fine show, which I hope your flock will come to and check us out. I got nothing, man.
No, I'm here for you. I'm here for the podcasters. I love the podcast community. I love the fans, the flock of Amish. I love interviewing people. And I want to thank you for coming on this powerful podcast. Did you have a good time?
I did, yes. This has been phenomenal. You have done a lovely job of making me feel welcome in your home, and I can't thank you enough for that. Allowing me to come in and chit chat with you, it warms my cockles.
I don't know what those are, but what is a cockle?
I have no idea. Like something from like Dickens era. You warm the cockles of my heart. What the hell is that? Yeah.
Similar to chestnuts or not?
I'm assuming so, but without doing the proper research, I don't want to say either way.
All right. Well, thank you for coming into the barn. I want to thank everyone that listens to this powerful podcast. And until next time, you've just enjoyed the Amish Baby Machine podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Amish Baby Machine Pop Culture Podcast. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and everywhere else fine podcasts are found. Please support our podcast through Patreon and shop our merch at AmishBabyMachine.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. This has been an Amish Baby Machine production.